Okay, starting. I'm going to open up the room. Okay, looks like we're getting some attendees coming in. Thank you folks for joining. We'll just give it a few minutes for reporters to come in, and then Frankie, I'll kick it off to you when we're ready to start.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have quite a bit of people joining. We'll just give it just one more minute and then we can kick off. Excellent. Yeah, we're getting some folks in the room. Okay. I think we have enough people to start now. So Frankie, if you'd like to begin the program.
Thank you so much, Carolina. Thank you to everybody joining us. Welcome, bienvenidos. Before we begin our program, please note that we will take questions at the end, both in English and Spanish. So please make sure to add your questions in the chat box. And also, the second part of our speaking program will be in Spanish. So let's begin. My name is Frankie Miranda. I am the president of the Hispanic Federation. The Federation is one of the premier Latino nonprofit membership organizations involved in local, state, and national advocacy on health, education, civic engagement, immigration, and more. We also support a network of member organizations that provide social services to millions of Hispanic children, youth, and families across the country. Today, we're launching Caminos de Esperanza, a $1 million initiative that will directly support 11 nonprofit immigration organizations across the country to meet the escalating demand for legal aid in immigration cases. The need for legal representation has never been more urgent. Our immigration courts are backlogged. Currently, in California, Texas, New York, and Florida, each have over 100,000 pending deportation cases. Nationally, we're approaching 1.5 million. Let me just be clear. The cases we're funding or that we want to support through this initiative have existing paths to residency and relief. However, they are inaccessible to vulnerable low-income immigrants of color. Caminos de Esperanza is working to provide immigrants with legal assistance to give them the best chance possible to utilize the available pathways to relief and residency. In its first year, Caminos de Esperanza is expected to provide screenings and direct legal representation across New York, Florida, Connecticut, North Carolina, New Jersey, Texas, Arizona, DC, Maryland, Virginia, and California, where a coalition of members are on the ground where the need is the highest. Each of the grantees will receive $100,000 to bring comprehensive legal assistance through existing legal pathways. Without these services, immigrants who cannot afford legal representation will have no choice than to represent themselves in court, leaving them at great risk of being permanently separated from their families or held indefinitely in immigration detention centers. Today, you will hear from an amazing group of women, leaders in their communities, from our powerful national coalition. They were selected specifically because of the role they play in their regions. These are the advocacy organizations and legal service providers who are on the ground daily and know what immigrants are up against when it comes to navigating their cases. You will hear from them about the most pressing challenges to providing immigration assistance and the kind of work it takes to keep families safe and united in their communities. And to start our panelists, I will ask our friend and great leader, Angelica Salas, Executive Director from the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, CHIRLA, to start this panel serving the immigrant communities in Los Angeles, California.
Muchas gracias, Frankie. Thank you so much to the Hispanic Federation for this incredible initiative. Again, I'm the Executive Director for the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights. We are California's mass membership immigrant rights organization whose mission is to create a just society fully inclusive of immigrants. CHIRLA's programs are multifaceted. They include organizing, community education and outreach, policy and advocacy at the local, state, and federal level, and of course, legal services for our immigrant community. In our legal services department, we work with thousands of immigrants every year to ensure that they have access to due process in the immigration system that actually is in many times incredibly cruel. Often low-income immigrants do not have access to legal services, and therefore they don't have access to this due process. This means asylum seekers who have credible and genuine claims of asylum lose the protection they deserve. This means that immigrants facing deportation will quickly be processed through what we call rocket dockets and be separated from their families. These rocket docket court proceedings without legal representation deprive families of fairness and due process. Legal representation for immigrants means liberty, it means family unity, and it means being able to stay in the only place they call home. CHIRLA is honored to continue our long and committed relationship with the Hispanic Federation in this incredible Caminos de Esperanza initiative to afford legal representation to immigrants who desperately need it. The Hispanic Federation has been our partner as we have responded to this incredible and horrific pandemic that has impacted Latinos all over this country. We're working together to win immigration reform and justice. We have worked together to access vaccination, and now it is with great pride that we're working together to create a real access to direct legal representation. Now, CHIRLA will be providing, with this grant, CHIRLA will be able to support over 300 individuals in their legal consultations. It will also create an opportunity for us to protect individuals in their asylum cases. We will be focusing also on working with special immigrant juvenile visas to make sure that our young people have access to these services as well. Many times individuals who all they have in this moment is the CHIRLA team. And of course, we will continue to work in partnership with the Hispanic Federation on detention and removal cases to ensure that people are able to stay with their families and really fight against their deportations. Y brevemente, lo que quiero primero comenzar es dando gracias a este esfuerzo por parte de la Federación Hispana. Nosotros hemos trabajado muy de cerca con la Federación para asegurar que nuestra comunidad tenga oportunidad. Hemos trabajado durante esta pandemia para asegurar que nuestra comunidad tenga oportunidad y que se le dé los servicios que tanto se necesitan. Ahorita trabajamos, nuestro último proyecto era de acelerar la vacunación y ahora es tan importante, ¿verdad?, que estamos trabajando para que nuestra comunidad tenga representación directa. Y vamos a trabajar en este esfuerzo, Caminos a la Esperanza, para asegurar que nuestra comunidad tenga acceso a representación en sus casos de asilo. Vamos a trabajar con jóvenes y niños que necesitan representación y también vamos a trabajar con familias que están enfrentando la deportación. Es un honor trabajar con la Federación Hispana en esta iniciativa, con todos nuestros colegas a través de toda la nación. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, Angélica. Now we're going to Charlotte, North Carolina, with the co-director for Carolina Migrant Network, Stephanie Arteaga. Stephanie,
Sorry. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. As Frankie mentioned, my name is Stefania Arteaga. I am the co-executive director of the Carolina Migrant Network. We're a nonprofit based in Charlotte, North Carolina, whose focus is to provide free legal immigration representation to people detained and or facing removal proceedings. We're absolutely honored to be part of the Caminos de Esperanza initiative to provide the much needed legal representation in our state and our region. North Carolina has undergone tremendous demographic change over the past 20 years. We can see that through the large numbers of Latinos, young Latinos that came out to vote this past presidential election. And we can also see that through the creation of the elaborate deportation pipeline that has been created. This fact is highlighted by a recent Syracuse University track report showing that our state ranks 10th in the nation for people facing removal and dead last for representation. This lack of representation is likely due to the incredible high and systematic and structural barriers facing immigrants in removal proceedings. As many know, the Charlotte Immigration Court has denied 89% of their asylum cases from 2015 to 2020 and had the second highest deportation rate in 2019. Additionally, while more than 3,500 immigrants have been ordered removed this year alone, only 12 actually held prior criminal convictions and 3 for aggravated felonies. This data paints a clear picture of the arbitrary and punitive system we operate in, and it's one we hope to change through the support in this wonderful initiative with the Hispanic Federation, because at the core, we believe that everyone deserves a fighting chance. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefania. Let's go to Long Island, New York, with Elise de Castillo, Executive Director for the Central American Refugee Center.
Mil gracias, Frankie. Buenas tardes o buenos días a todos, depending on where you are. It is such an honor for me to be here with you all today and for Caresen to be partnering with Hispanic Federation on this remarkable initiative. As Frankie said, my name is Elise de Castillo, and I am the Executive Director of Caresen on Long Island. I'm actually not here to talk about Caresen this afternoon. What I want to do is talk to you about Emerson Argueta. In 1990, Emerson Argueta crossed the southern border of the United States as he and his family fled civil war in his native El Salvador. They came to Long Island, where thanks to the pro bono attorneys at Caresen, he was able to remain safely in the United States. Were it not for his lawyer, Emerson likely would have been deported. Emerson's relationship with Caresen did not end when his case was closed. 30 years later, Emerson is Caresen's supervising attorney, leading a team of pro bono lawyers and paralegals who, with the support of Hispanic Federation's Caminos de Esperanza, represent immigrant children at risk for deportation, just like Emerson himself was 3 decades ago. Emerson is the perfect example of the power of legal representation in shaping the futures of immigrant children. Stories like Emerson's play out across the United States every day. But in underserved areas like Long Island, which welcomes thousands of immigrant children each year, a lack of funding for legal services leaves countless children without attorneys, increasing their likelihood for deportation. In fact, access to counsel continues to be the single greatest defining factor in an immigrant child's possibility to avoid deportation and remain safely in the United States. Thanks to Hispanic Federation's Caminos de Esperanza, Caresen is now better able to protect these vulnerable children by providing them free attorneys and giving them a fighting chance at a future in this country. As with the generations of immigrant children who have come before them, like Emerson, our ability to respond to their needs today will define their ability to contribute meaningfully to our society tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Now we go to Tucson, Arizona with Alba Jaramillo, Executive Director of Arizona Justice for Our Neighbors.
Hi, buenos días, buenas tardes a todos. First of all, I just want to say thank you to the Hispanic Federation, and I'm so grateful that this initiative exists, especially after being an undocumented person myself. Arizona Justice for Our Neighbors, we're a nonprofit organization that provides immigration legal services to low-income immigrants and asylum seekers. We're 45 minutes from the Nogales port of entry, and being in a border community, we bear witness to the experience of thousands of asylum seekers. The asylum seekers that request legal assistance are not economic refugees. They are people who are fleeing for their very lives. We hear the stories of persecution and human rights abuses in their journey to the United States. We sit with them in their desperation to continue to their journey to freedom. And we hear their stress in trying to understand and navigating the asylum process. And they come to the border knowing absolutely nothing about the asylum process. We know that the majority of asylum seekers that come through the southern border will face multiple barriers in attaining counsel. This includes, of course, the lack of financial resources to hire an attorney, language barriers, and navigating a legal system while simultaneously dealing with trauma and loss. And detained asylum seekers will face additional barriers of trying to find counsel while behind bars, and many after having spent their entire life savings to get to the United States. Most asylum seekers will never have the opportunity to attain counsel, and succeeding in an asylum case is difficult. But we know with the assistance of counsel, asylum seekers are 5 times more likely to win their case, and they're also more likely to be released from detention. The reality for these asylum-seeking families is either to beat the odds and succeed in their asylum case, or be returned to their home countries and face certain persecution or death. This funding provides opportunity to save many lives, and for that we are so grateful to the Hispanic Federation. Thank you.
Thank you, Alba. Muchas gracias. Now we're going to an organization serving immigrant communities in Connecticut. Susan Schnitzer, Executive Director of the Connecticut Institute for Refugees and Immigrants. Susan.
Great. Thank you, Frankie. And we have to thank the Hispanic Federation for this fantastic opportunity. I think we're the newest kid on the block, and it is really fabulous to be here with all you amazing women doing and leading this work. The grant we're receiving from the Hispanic Federation is allowing us to serve up to 300 individuals, adults and children, women and men, as they seek affordable, high-quality legal services and secure the legal relief that's due them. The work we do helps strengthen families. It mitigates the trauma that these folks have due to family separation, as many are already suffering the trauma of leaving their country on top of the trauma they've endured within their country. Many folks in our state are still vulnerable, forced to live in the background of our society and excluded from accessing basic human rights, and also any legal repercussions when they're taken advantage of. We see this every day. For over 100 years, CIRI has welcomed refugees and immigrants to our communities here in Connecticut and have really worked encouraging our communities to open their hearts and minds, allowing refugees and immigrants in, and to celebrate the beauty of all cultures. And our partnership now with Hispanic Federation supports our ongoing and expanding efforts to make sure that those coming to Connecticut can secure and take advantage of their human rights, have safety, have the resources they need to heal from trauma, and can start rebuilding their lives here in Connecticut. CIRI is the leader statewide in providing statewide legal resources to all immigrants that come into our state, and we are committed to providing affordable, low-cost pro bono legal services, and then also referring folks out to other services so we can meet the holistic needs of all of those in community that we are lucky enough to be in touch with and serve.
Thank you so much, Susan. Now let's go to Central Florida with Melissa Marantes, Executive Director of the Orlando Center for Justice.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Hispanic Federation for inviting us to this initiative and to have a seat at this table. It's an honor above all. I wanted to share today with those listening about 5 children. We assist both families and children in all the work that we do with immigration. But these 5 children were very interesting because this summer was a beautiful end to one piece of their journey. These 5 children, 3 out of 5 of them I started working with back in 2016. So it's been many, many years, a long road. They crossed the border because of what was happening in their home country. A portion of them were victims of abuse, and the other portion as well. some of them took the route of something that we call special immigrant juveniles, where we had to enter both courts in the state and courts before immigration. They spanned 3 counties to try to provide them with assistance. And each of the time, getting to see kids from age 8 all the way up through teenagers and watch them grow over the years, because believe it or not, as much as our role is as the attorneys and as helping them with their legal process, we still get to observe and see them, seeing them learn English, seeing them participate in our communities, wanting to give back, seeing them take their journey and in their process, seeing the courts find that they did suffer abuse, and seeing the 5 as of this summer be granted some asylum and some special immigrant juvenile before the courts was a very emotional moment. I stood before 3 young men and 2 women as they were brought to tears as the judge granted their cases, and just feeling the honor of knowing that they are the people who tomorrow are in our communities and helping to employ others, helping to contribute, and hopefully one day can also, as the stories have been told, be leaders in the organizations that we see. So I just want to share with you, it's just a beautiful end that we see, but that's only 5, and this initiative will allow us to help so many more. So every little bit helps, every little bit contributes, and we just thank you again for including us, and we hope that we can, expand as much as we can and help as many as we can along the way.
Muchas gracias, Melissa. Thank you so much. Let's jump now to New York and New Jersey with Alba Lucero for the Coalition for Immigrant Freedom. Alba.
Muchas gracias, Frankie. I'm so proud to be part of this amazing cohort. And I want to thank you again to the Hispanic Federation for such unwavering support. As Frankie said, I'm Alba Lucero Villa. I'm the Executive Director for the Coalition for Immigrant Freedom. We were founded in 1982 and since then have provided legal services and ancillary services for the immigrant community. And if there was one phrase that I hear most often when from our community members, it's life-changing. The clients we serve summarize that phrase as the impact of our work. And in the words of Robbie, who was one of our clients that recently won his asylum hearing, he told me when we talked about this initiative, he says, "You've changed my life. I have work authorization and I can work in the US. I got asylum and a social security number. I arrived in the US and I didn't know what to do. I was very confused and alone, but then everything changed. My life got better. There are no words to describe the work you do." If I had to choose a phrase to describe this initiative and what it means to our clients, it would be hope in action. Because as legal service providers, we really provide our clients more than just assistance on their legal matters. It's often a lifeline that we give them. Mental health screening, domestic violence assistance, English classes, really just a lifeline to basic services. So I'm very excited and proud to be part of this amazing group.
Muchas gracias, Alba. Now we are going to have the opportunity to have some remarks in Spanish for our Spanish language media. Ahora tengo el placer de presentar a Linda Rivas, directora ejecutiva de las Americas Immigrant Advocacy Center desde El Paso, Texas.
Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Es un gran honor estar aquí con Hispanic Federation, ser parte de esta gran iniciativa. Y sí, yo me llamo Linda Rivas y soy parte de la organización, soy directora de las Americas Immigrant Advocacy Center. Nosotros estamos en El Paso, Texas y también en Ciudad Juárez, porque como sabemos, han habido muchos cambios que ahorita personas que están buscando protección y asilo en nuestro país son forzados a permanecer en México. Las Américas ha sido una organización ayudando a personas en el programa MPP o Quédate en México y lo seguimos haciendo. Quiero dar, las Américas en los 34 años que tenemos, ayudamos a personas que están detenidas, también como personas que están buscando refugio, asilo y también la reunificación de familias. Algo muy difícil en El Paso, Texas, es que nosotros fuimos donde pusieron el programa piloto de cero tolerancia para separar a las familias. Y seguimos con los esfuerzos de mantener a las familias juntas y también reunificaciones de familias. Pero hoy también quiero dar un corto resumen de la familia de María de Loera. María de Loera ha sido una cliente de nosotros desde el 2014. María de Loera vino escapando violencia de Ciudad Juárez después de que su esposo perdió su vida a pandillas. Ella llega con sus hijos y desafortunadamente en el tiempo que ella fue deportada por un juez, su hija empieza a sufrir de cáncer. En ese tiempo nosotros empezamos a luchar porque María, a apelar la decisión y luchar porque María se podría quedar en el país para tener la oportunidad de salvarle la vida a su hija. Tengo el placer de decirles que después de muchísimos años, muchísimas luchas, hemos logrado una gran paz y tranquilidad para la familia y seguridad para la familia de Loera. En este momento, tras muchísimas luchas que hace también el equipo de las Américas, logramos que ella nunca fuera deportada y también logramos ciudadanía por su esposo y residencia por ella y por sus hijas. Seguimos luchando por esta familia y con esta gran iniciativa de Caminos de Esperanza, las Américas tenemos que poder sostener estos servicios y brindarle a más familias como la familia de Loera el servicio de representación legal para que las familias ya no sean separadas. Tenemos el gran deseo de seguir dando estos servicios y es un gran placer y me llena el corazón ver la valentía de las otras líderes que están aquí, que también están cambiando las vidas y empoderando las vidas de las personas. Reemplazar la dignidad es algo que hacemos con muchísima pasión y honor. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Linda. Our last speaker, nuestra última presentadora va a ser Paula Fitzgerald, que ayuda a comunidades inmigrantes en Virginia, Maryland and the DC area. Paula.
Gracias, Frankie. Buenas tardes. Soy Paula Fitzgerald, la directora ejecutiva de Ayuda. Y como Frankie te dijo, servimos inmigrantes de bajos ingresos en Washington, D.C. y Maryland. Washington, D.C., Maryland y Virginia. En las cortes de inmigración, tener un abogado es bien importante. Tener representación legal a menudo marca la diferencia entre que una persona sea permitida a permanecer en los Estados Unidos o ser deportada. Sin embargo, el sistema de inmigración actualmente no proporciona abogados designados por el tribunal a inmigrantes que enfrentan deportación y que no puedan pagar un abogado. Solo 37% de todos los inmigrantes y 14% de los inmigrantes detenidos se presentan a los tribunales con un abogado a su lado. No es sorprendente que personas con abogada sean muchas más propensas a buscar alivio y a su deportación y a ganar sus casos. Tener representación en la Corte de Inmigración debe ser garantizado, igual como en el Corte Penal. Agradecemos a la Federación Hispana por financiar este importante trabajo y esperamos que otras fundaciones sigan su ejemplo. Gracias.
Thank you, Paula. Muchísimas gracias. That wraps up the speaker portion of our program. Before we turn it over to Q&A, I want to affirm what the speakers have shared today. Hispanic Federation and this coalition knows that without broad immigration relief through a pathway to citizenship, many of the immigrant groups that we are serving through this initiative will continue to be at the risk of deportation and family separation. Part of our work will be directly supporting the long-term vision of ensuring immigrant communities remain in the places they know as home. This week, congressional lawmakers are pushing to include a pathway to legal permanent residency for 8 million undocumented immigrants via budget reconciliation measure. This will impact dreamers, TPS holders, individuals seeking asylum, and other immigrant groups that our initiative seeks to protect from deportation. The Hispanic Federation firmly supports these efforts and is hopeful that Congress can make it a reality. And with that, I'll toss it to my colleagues to start the Q&A.
Thanks, Frankie. I see that we have 2 questions. It's from the same reporter. So I'll have that person, if you could just, I'll allow you to talk, and if you could just identify yourself and your outlet. This is Elisa Ross. Just a second. Here you go.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yes, I had a couple of questions, and then what Mr. Miranda said.
Oh, sorry, your outlet?
Oh, Telemundo Network. I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was going to ask my questions, and then I was going to ask Mr. Miranda if you speak Spanish. What you just said was so great. If you could say it in Spanish, that would be great. So my question is, so this is a one-time grant, or is this going to be ongoing other years, or is this too preliminary? And the other follow-up question was, from what I understood, it is going to be a $100,000 grant for 10 organizations. And does that translate, from what I heard from a couple of persons, including my friend Angelica Salas, that translates to about $300,000, $300, help for 300 individuals with those $100,000. So anybody care to tackle that, even Angelica or Mr. Miranda?
Bueno, primero que nada, gracias por su pregunta. Nosotros esperamos poder continuar expandiendo esta iniciativa, pero por ahora tenemos fondos para cubrir $1 millón dedicados a este proyecto. Es por eso que estamos también haciendo un llamado a otras áreas de fundaciones, compañías privadas, personas que verdaderamente estén interesadas en continuar apoyando este proyecto Caminos de Esperanza, porque sabemos que es sumamente importante que se haga ahora para proteger de todos modos, aunque se logre llegar a algún acuerdo en el Congreso sobre un verdadero camino a la ciudadanía para 8 millones de personas, que esperamos que se logre hacer. Eso toma tiempo y ya hay personas que están en estos procesos, y es por eso que es necesario comenzar esta discusión ahora mismo.
Hola, buenos días, Elisa. Para nosotros en Chirla nos vamos a enfocar con estos recursos en los casos más difíciles. Entonces van a ser casos de asilo, van a ser representación de niños que están enfrentando también posiblemente la deportación, pero que también tienen oportunidades en base a negligencia que les ha pasado, abuso, etcétera. Y luego, tercero, personas que están ya enfrentando la deportación o están en centros de detención. Así que nos vamos a enfocar en esas situaciones más difíciles y vamos a poder otorgar servicios a 300 personas o más, dependiendo, ¿verdad?, la situación. Pero estamos muy agradecidos por estos recursos.
Excelente. Muchas gracias a los dos.
Gracias, Elisa. I believe that there is a question for Melissa. Melissa, from Orlando, Matthew Petty is asking, can you tell me how the funding will be used and the impact, how many clients it will allow to assist for your organization?
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you, Matthew, for your question. So the funding will allow us to assist more than 100 individuals and families locally here in Central Florida. What we'll do is we'll be able to outreach to them, find out if there's any relief in their cases, assign them with people to help with representation. And the interesting part about the funding that people don't realize, at least through our organization, is that those may be the objectives of the funding in itself, and yet we know that with the money we can do even more. There are a ton of people that run into everyday questions when it comes to the immigration process. How to change your address, how to move your court, how do I apply for assistance, or what can I find, what's available in the community. So this allows us to have a presence on a regular basis and be able to answer a lot of those very crucial questions that can direct people in the right direction. So outside of the people that we can directly represent, and very similar to Chirla, it's going to be children that are in proceedings, families that are in proceedings, asylum seekers, very much, it could even be victims of domestic violence that are in court and proceedings. There's a variety of people, the focus being on those that are navigating the immigration court process. But in doing so, it will also put us at access to a lot of different individuals along the way, and we are committed to help each and every one of them and start answering those questions and getting them at least referrals or in the right direction so they can start to get assistance. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Muchas gracias. Cecilia, Ana Cecilia, también de Telemundo. ¿Nos pueden decir cómo aquellos interesados en recibir estos beneficios pueden obtener la información? ¿A dónde tienen que acudir para ver qué organización ayuda en su zona? Para eso, Ana Cecilia, les recomendamos que utilicen el website de la Federación Hispana, hispanicfederation.org, para saber cuáles son las organizaciones que están participando de esta iniciativa. También podemos enviarles a través de correo electrónico todas las organizaciones que están participando, y en muchos casos lo que queremos es dejarles saber que estos recursos, en muchos casos ya estas personas ya han estado han sido identificadas por estas organizaciones. Son casos que son complicados, pero que a la misma vez ya han tenido la oportunidad de ser evaluados. Por supuesto, esperamos continuar expandiendo para más personas, pero también va a depender entonces de la capacidad de cada una de estas organizaciones. Esperamos que podamos conseguir más fondos y continuar expandiendo esta iniciativa.
And next we have another question from Maria Ramirez Uribe for Sharon or Stefania. Will each North Carolina organization receive the $100,000? How will this funding support North Carolina's immigrant community? And do you have an idea of how many people this will support? So Sharon or Stefania, yes, they are both getting $100,000, but
so I'm happy to talk first and then turn it over to Stefania. Charlotte Center for Legal Advocacy, which is my organization, provides representation to immigrants in immigration court and in connection with proceeding with applications to USCIS. We have been involved in immigration removal defense representation since the Charlotte court opened here in about 2009. I believe we are intimately connected with the community, and that's what enables us to really build on this $100,000 grant. We have actually a space in the courthouse where we meet with folks and help them navigate in the courthouse, assistance showing them, how to find their A number and other sort of more simple information like that. But also we screen them and we get them to legal help. We get them to our office. We get them to the robust network of private attorneys that we work with who take on cases on a pro bono basis. And then, we also have a very strong network of legal providers that are not, attorneys, private attorneys that are not immigration attorneys, but instead are, the big firm attorneys, the bank attorneys, and we have incorporated them in our practice by getting them to help us in civil court obtain custody, the predicate custody orders for the special immigrant juvenile status cases that Melissa has been talking about. And so it's a process. We're all working together, and it really enables the system to work. And I can tell you this year, I think we've gotten at least green cards for at least 60 or 70 special immigrant juvenile status kids. And I think the last thing that I want to mention, just to add to everybody's comments before, is that when you see these kids, as Melissa described them, get their green cards, it's like something out of this world. And the thing about them is that these are kids who want to be involved in American life. Many have done junior ROTC in high school. They want to serve their country. It is just the pinnacle of inspiration for myself, and I just feel very honored to work for immigrants. I feel honored to be part of this initiative and grateful to the Hispanic Federation. So I'll turn it over to Stephanie.
Thanks, Sharon. Hi, Maria. So with the funding that we are receiving from the Hispanic Federation, we're looking to continue to support families in the Carolinas We are estimating that we will help around 100 individuals. However, I think what's really important to note about these numbers is sometimes we talk about one case that we're supporting, but we also forget about the large extended family that is impacted through legal protections that we're able to secure through our representation. Most of the people that we have been representing have been people not only in the Charlotte area, but also people across rural North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina, Pink Hill, North Carolina, in places where there really are large gaps for representation. And we're just really fortunate and really excited about doing this work for sure. Not to mention, we also work a lot with people that are already in detention, which is a big gap that we see in the state. In terms of people that are often looking for representation from other agencies that are already overwhelmed in their region, say Georgia, Louisiana, those geographic regions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Stefania. Let's go with Stefan. Let's go to Ana Barón from EF. Can you elaborate how long an asylum process can last in court, especially when there is 1.3 million cases in immigration courts? Before I toss it to any of my incredible panelists, this is why it's really important that Congress take action and take action on this broken immigration system. Part of the ask will be to have more resources, to be dedicated to clear this backlog that the entire system has. So it is really important that we can actually get this done. This is a once in a generation opportunity. We know that we have heard this before, but we're very hopeful that something is going to happen, and it's going to happen right now. But anybody that would like to add more about how long an asylum process can last?
Sí, lo puedo hacer en español. Yo he tenido un caso que duró literalmente 10 años en las cortes de una familia buscando asilo. Y yo sé que muchos de mis colegas tienen historias parecidas. Depende mucho de la corte, depende del número de jueces que hay, pero algo muy importante, sabemos que necesitamos que haya un sistema justo, que haya un sistema de cortes inmigratorias que sean justas, y también que se otorgue el debido proceso. A veces el problema es que cuando vemos esto en números, ahorita, por ejemplo, una de mis colegas mencionó que tenemos algo que se llama el dedicated docket. Esto es hacer casos un poquito más, mucho más rápidos de personas recién llegadas. Nosotros no creemos que debemos sacrificar el debido proceso por la eficiencia. Y tiene el señor Miranda muchísimo decir que el Congreso es exactamente lo que tiene que pasar. El Congreso tiene que actuar y no podemos sacrificar debido proceso y justicia por eficiencia y rapidez. Tenemos que tratar cada caso con respeto, debido proceso y luchar para verdaderamente llegar a justicia. Hay muchas personas que cuando hacemos esto en prisa van a perder de la protección del asilo y van a perder la oportunidad de buscar un abogado cuando se les corta el tiempo en su corte. Solamente digo esto porque tenemos que tener el balance de las cortes que van atrasadas, tanto con no hacer las cosas eficientemente, donde sacrificamos la justicia.
Gracias. Y tenemos otra pregunta. Estefanía Hernández de Noticias 1. La pregunta es para Alba Lucero Villa. ¿Cómo ayudaría el fondo a la organización? ¿A cuántos clientes? ¿Y cuáles serían esos casos?
Gracias, Estefanía. Bueno, el gran cambio y la gran oportunidad que nos da este fondo es poder ayudar a personas en New Jersey. Nosotros hemos tenido muchas personas que nos piden ayuda, pero si están fuera de la ciudad tenemos limitaciones. Esto nos permite que trabajemos tanto en la ciudad de Nueva York como en New Jersey y nos va a permitir que demos asesoría a 150 clientes y de esos clientes que le ayudamos a determinar cómo está su caso y qué caminos tengan, pensamos ayudar a clientes que están buscando asilo, clientes que están en proceso de deportación y también menores que tienen la oportunidad para aplicar para esta visa especial. De esos casos, ya representación completa dependería en el tipo de caso que es. Y también para aclarar, para agregar lo que dijo mi colega del asilo, el contexto es importante que si alguien estuviera aplicando para el asilo no fuera de las cortes y tenía la oportunidad de hacer una aplicación afirmativa, se supone que sería meses en recibir una decisión. Pero sabemos que esos meses se vuelven años cuando uno está en las cortes por el mismo problema del retraso.
Gracias, Alba. Tengo otra pregunta aquí de Stephanie Córdoba de Univisión El Paso. La pregunta es para la abogada Linda Rivas. ¿Se puede comentarnos cuántas personas estarían beneficiadas al nivel local? Gracias.
Gracias por la pregunta. Sí, nosotros también estamos viendo 300 personas o más que vamos a poder ayudar con estos fondos y esto va a ser en adición de las personas que ya ayudamos. Entonces, sí, definitivamente es algo que no creemos haber podido lograr sin estos fondos. Estamos muy agradecidos por eso.
Gracias. No estoy viendo más preguntas en el chat, pero si otros reporteros tienen una pregunta, pueden levantar la manito. If you have any questions, if reporters have any questions, please raise the hand on your chat and we can get to it, or just feel free to type it into the chat. Okay, I'm not seeing it. Oh, I see one from Brenda Reyes. So I'm gonna allow you to talk, Brenda. Go ahead. Brenda, are you still on?
She's on mute.
Let's see. Here, can you speak now? No? Oh. Okay. If it's easier, you could also type in your question to the chat. I don't see a question coming in.
Yeah.
Oh,
Brenda.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Brenda.
De hecho, soy Stephanie de Univisión también, solo que mi compañera Brenda fue la que me envió el link. Pero nada más quería pedirles que por favor, si me pueden, veo que están grabando esta conferencia, si pueden mandármela a mi correo electrónico, por favor.
Sí, lo que vamos a hacer es mandar el recording de todo este video. Lo vamos a incluir en el virtual press packet. Lo puedo agregar ese link ahorita en el chat. So for reporters who are on, we will be providing a recording of this press conference in the virtual press packet, and I can drop that into the chat now.
Muchas gracias.
Are there additional questions? Let me see here.
Carolina, I guess that we should wrap it up. So thank you everybody for your time, for joining us. As Carolina mentioned, we will be sharing this recording to everybody. And if you would like to coordinate one-on-one interviews with any of our incredible speakers, their contact information is in the virtual packet or you can email your request to hispanicfederation@berlinrosen.com. Thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias para todos aquellos que necesiten más información. Algunos de nosotros podemos estar disponibles para entrevistas uno a uno. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Muchísimas gracias a todos nuestros panelistas. Hasta luego.
Okay, and I've added the link, but I will follow up with everyone who RSVP'd with the virtual press packet. Thank you.
Carolina, I had a quick question.
Oh, yes.
Will we also be able to get the link as well?
Yes.